Don't let these short-term memories or short-term situations, circumstances put a detriment on your long-term goals, because honestly, you may be 2 years down the road and you may see a more attractive interest rate, but the affordability of real estate is probably more affordable right now than it will be in 2 years.
Welcome to the Know Me Network, y'all. We've got a special guest today, a lot going on with the mortgage industry and whatnot. A lot of things that came out. I saw some articles this morning. Today, we've got our special guest, Andy Pendleton with Legacy Mortgage. And I wanted him to kind of jump on and give us an update of what's going on in the industry, as well as just kind of give us a chance to get to know you. What's on the other side of the human side of a mortgage officer. So with that said, Andy, introduce yourself for us.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to chat with you a little bit. But yeah, there are a lot of craziness going on with the housing industry, with the mortgage industry, and want to clarify some myths, and would love to talk a little bit about my background and what got me from point A to point B as well. So I hear so much about others. This is kind of outside of my normal comfort zone of talking about myself for a while.
Cool. Well, listen, me and you know each other a little bit. So my history with you is I bought a house back in the latest boom back in 8-9 years ago, and you were part of the process where I got to ask all the silly questions about what it is to get a mortgage and those sort of things. So that was 8 or 9 years ago, and you and I have kind of kept in touch since. So it's been cool getting to know you.
Absolutely. Yeah. And actually, at that point in time, I was a processor, and I was the processor for your loan. So I had not made a full transition into originating. And so I was blessed with an opportunity to kind of learn the backside of mortgages prior to getting into the originating side. So,
interesting. I don't know that I knew that.
Well, I'm sorry, I had to surprise you this way.
I always thought you were the man, so my bad. But so you're from Dallas, right?
I am. I grew up in the Lake Highlands area. I have a sister that is 8 years my younger. So we joke around pretty often that I was an only child for 8 years and she was an only child for 8 years. So, and it's amazing how we did not get along all that well growing up. And honestly, if the roles were reversed and she was as mean to me as I was to her, I probably wouldn't hang out with her. But honestly, she's some of our best friends, lives within 2 miles from us. And it's been really cool to see her really grow up into adult life too.
That's neat. Yeah. My brother's 8 years older than me, so I'm relate more with your sister than you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do y'all hang out now?
We don't. He's actually in Fredericksburg, so we talk here and there. But
absolutely.
You mentioned growing up in Dallas, Lake Highlands. What high school did you go to? And for me, talk to me a little bit about what it was like going into a big high school.
Yeah, so I did go to Lake Highlands High School. I graduated in 2006. Went through elementary school in the Lake Highlands window, I guess, or Lake Highlands district. Started off at Skyview Elementary, went to Forest Meadow, and then Lake Highlands Freshman Center to the high school. And each of those transitions were a little bit different in itself. I've always gone to bigger elementary schools, even leading up to Skyview. So Skyview was actually the smallest elementary school that I went to. But then that transition from Skyview to Forest Meadow, it was huge. A lot of my classmates at my elementary school had moved off and gone to different junior highs, whether it's private school or moved to a different district. So it was a whole new shock. And then going to high school, you meet even more people. My graduating class, I believe, was about 700 in my graduating class. And um, it's funny that when you get to graduation, you're like, I don't know that I've ever seen that person. But then you come to realize that you know a lot more people than you thought you did, or know a lot more people's names. And it's really cool seeing it come full circle now that a lot of a lot of us have made our way back to DFW area. A lot of the clients that I work with are from my high school database that um, and it's been really awesome to see us all grow up together in a way. So at, throughout high school, I played baseball. My freshman year of high school, I slid on to the baseball team as the equipment manager slash fifth, fourth or fifth string catcher. So needless to say, I was taking care of a lot of stuff, but it wasn't playing baseball for majority of the year. The last game of the freshman year season, one of my best friends to this day, he was a catcher slot ahead of me, and he had gotten some playing time, and not much, but it was really, really cool. He asked the coach if I could go in and play the last couple of innings, and it was a blast, man. And so sophomore year came around, I still wasn't playing, and decided I'd make a switch from catcher to pitcher. And honestly, from that point on, pitching paid my college tuition. Pitching did a lot for me. I've been blessed to meet a lot of people and the baseball networking side of things, and it's just been a wild ride, to say the least.
That's cool. So who got you into that? Talk a little bit about where your baseball interest came from. Did you get that from mom or dad, or?
Definitely dad. I was always too small to play football, and played 1 year of t-ball, and some other kids that were my age were going into kid pitch the next year. And typically people go from t-ball to coach pitch to machine pitch to kid pitch. Like there's a transition period. And we decided to go ahead and go straight into kid pitch. First year or two were pretty rough, but I found, dad and I were always throwing, and he'd roll me ground balls and do a bunch of just drills, hitting drills growing up, and went to a lot of games growing up, and just
I guess being in the city, you get to go see the Rangers all the time.
Absolutely. I've been a Rangers fan through and through, seeing the nasty, bad stuff with them. But and so I know that when I was just sliding in, one thing that was always important to my parents is if I'm having an issue with playing time or whatever, like, you go talk to the coach, you go address those issues. Don't let me do it. I want what's best for you, and what's best for you is to have those tougher conversations. And ultimately, like, one of those was asking my sophomore year, asking the coaches, how do I get on the field? Like, what do I need to do to improve enough to get playing time? And I was told they needed pitchers for some tournaments coming up that weekend, and decided, yeah, give me a shot. I'll work out with the pitchers this week, and I'll be ready for this weekend. And I think I did 6 or 7 innings of relief work that weekend, and pitched really well. And they were like, you're not catching anymore. You don't need a bat. You just start throwing. And so by that point, my dad was a little bit too old to be catching me. So had to start grabbing friends and stuff like that. But we all were pretty much at license age. So meet at the ball field and go
Sure.
pitch a bullpen. And it's kind of more accountability on myself at that point. And I loved it enough that kept going.
Yeah, it's a pretty cool growth story. Hey, coach, how do I get on the field,
Absolutely.
and not being just stuck that, hey, I'm telling myself I'm a catcher. At the end of the day, I think we're all team players, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's a great point that if you don't like the way something's going, like have those more difficult conversations. I have an open door policy with my work team that if something's not working right, let's chat it through. Don't come at me with solutions. I don't want you working through problems that may be able to be addressed. And I hear so often, and I kind of had that mindset there for a while of don't come at me with problems, come at me with solutions. Well, if you can't figure out the solution, how long do you go through with this problem before you finally give in or give up? And then it's too late. So I like to hear about the issues and maybe we can come up with 5 different ideas and what's the best path for you.
Mm. Yeah, I guess that's back to that teamwork sort of stuff there that, it's we all have a common goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I kind of mentioned, grew up here, played baseball here. And then I said, went off to college to play baseball as well.
And where's that? Where'd you go?
I started off at Ranger Junior College, which is in between Fort Worth and Abilene.
Okay.
Population of maybe 300 people, like not a big town. A lot of the hunters know that area pretty well. It's popular hunting grounds, I think. And so I've always been pretty good about finding my own fun in those situations. My grandparents growing up were out in a small town of Stratford, Texas. So I'd spend weeks of the summer out there and got used to kind of small town life. So it didn't bother me at all. And when when you were bored, just go and throw the baseball.
Figure it out, right?
Absolutely.
So how long were you at Ranger?
I was there for 3 semesters, and before the spring semester, I was, for lack of a better term, my work ethic probably wasn't at its highest at that point. But I don't think I was pitching bad enough for it to be a situation that the head coach asked me if I would redshirt for a year. And I've mentioned a lot of baseball situations, but throughout my senior year of high school and up to this point in my life, I'm also dating my future wife. And I kind of have a timeline in mind of when I want to graduate, when I want to get married, and kind of setting that up and redshirting a year and putting graduation off another year, possibly putting off marriage another year. Like that was at a detriment to my future. And I communicated to the coach. I was like, Coach, I understand that I may not have been playing my best or putting in my best effort, but I'm gonna have to start shopping. Like I'm gonna have to start looking for schools that are ready for a pitcher right now because I've got other plans. And came across East Central University in Ada, Oklahoma.
Big city of Ada, Oklahoma.
Yeah, it was bigger than Ranger. So I was very impressed.
It's an upgrade.
Absolutely. And beautiful campus, by the way, great drive up. I mean, it really is a nice campus on a big hill. And I was like, I'd love to play here, and got offered a scholarship and finished out 3 years of baseball eligibility there and met some of the best friends to this day of my life. And
Now, did your bride go with you, or did you spend 2 years apart?
So I was a year older. So I was a freshman in college when she was a senior in high school. My sophomore year is when I made the transition to Ada for spring semester, and she was at University of North Texas. Then my junior year, her sophomore year, she transferred over to East Central, and we thank God very often that she did make that move, because who knows what would have happened after that. It was a long time apart, but we were happy to get back together.
And what's her name? Tell me her name and how long you guys have been married.
Meredith, and we actually just celebrated our 10-year anniversary last week. We were in San Diego, California, celebrating that. Had some time away from the kids, so I think I'm a little more tan than I was. So I'm glad we scheduled this when we did.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. So you get to Ada, Oklahoma, and you on the baseball team. Tell me about what you learned from being a baseball player. You know, what do you say you take away from just the whole experience? I hear having to speak up for yourself, having to make grown-up decisions, and hey, coach, I want to do this and you want to do that. Talk to me about how that grew you up.
College baseball is a little bit more of a different beast, because there were definitely days where it was 6 a.m. workouts, then 8 a.m. class, then 2 p.m. on the field workouts, then from 4 to 6 you need to eat dinner, and get yourself ready because we got weights that night. And it was more, the coaches weren't there for all of that. It was more self-accountability and structure that I developed a lot through playing collegiate athletics. Is the education was absolutely not at the top of my list. I'll put it that way. I was a finance major, but I was the kind of procrastinator that right before the test, I'm trying to pull all-nighters to cram for that test. There were very few priorities in school I didn't feel like was one of them, but I mean, grades ended up being okay. It's just school and I didn't really vibe all that much. And then Meredith being there and baseball. And so, yeah, a lot of camaraderie. If anyone ever asked me if I was in a fraternity, I kind of say yes, because yeah, your teammates and you spend a lot of time together, long boat trips and a lot of hours on the field. And there's times when you can goof off a little bit, but there's times that it's time to get serious and go nut up or shut up.
Yeah, I hear you. I was equipment manager during the Francione years at Texas A&M, and
I remember you telling me that.
You know, you put in all these hours and go to the Cotton Bowl just to get your butt whipped. You know, it's hard to do all of this work and put in all this time and all this energy, and sometimes it not always work out the way you wanted it to.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But all part of competition, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, there's a lot to be said about finding the blessings in those as well. My senior year, our team went 9-47 or something. Like, we didn't hit double-digit wins. My record was awful. I was a starting pitcher my senior year. My junior year, I would close 1 to 2 games, and then I'd start game 4. So there was a lot of pitching that took place, and honestly, there's a lot of accountability that I had to wear in a lot of those losses that it's hard to look back on. But fortunately, my teammates saw the work that I was putting in. It was just not my senior year was not my year, I guess.
Well, hey, looks like you're turned out all right on the flip side of that. Baseball's not forever. It's a hobby. It's something we enjoy. And hey, look, for you, it paid some bills.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was blessed with the college scholarship. I was blessed to coach some youth athletics for about 5 years.
Did you do
And
that after college? And
I
where in
did.
that process did you and Meredith get married?
So I finished eligibility in 2010 and we got married in June of 2012.
Okay.
So I had pretty much, I needed a victory lap for that last semester to finish up college, and then had my first full year of working in banking. I was back room in a community bank there in Oklahoma, in Ada actually. Back room, loan operations.
And this is because she's still in school, right?
A
Because you
lot
had
of
to
it
stay
is.
there.
And we had actually plans on staying in Ada, like
Oh, really?
trying that route of getting promoted throughout the bank and seeing where we end up. Um, Plans changed. I was in the workforce at that community bank for about a year, and I was in a situation where I was needing to work about 60 hours or so per week in order to get the overtime to put food on my table. And honestly, the work was available for me to be blessed enough to do that. So I was taking advantage of it. And I'm looking at my finances at that point in time and adding another person onto those finances, and decided I'd ask for a raise. My supervisor was all for it, but once she went to her higher ups, they wanted to wait until my evaluation, which wasn't until May, and we were getting married in June. And so I found the same friend that told the coach that he wanted me to play catcher. His mom worked at a community bank here in Dallas, and they had an opening for a position in loan operations. So it's amazing how God works. I applied. I had about a year of experience, and it was different systems, but a lot of the same job. And to be totally honest, they wanted to pay me double for about half the work, and I was totally good with that.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so, and when I say they were paying me double, it was double of a very little amount of money.
Sure.
Like,
Right.
I think my wages in 2011, my first year in employment, was just under 20,000 a year.
Wow.
And it's amazing to look back, like going back and at your Social Security wages. If you've never done that, it's really fascinating to see your history of what you've made. So I'd encourage anyone to go back and look and see.
And how do you do that? Where do you, is this something you can go online to see?
Yeah, if you go to the Social Security Administration and log in, create a login, there's a lot of questions that they need to prove that it's you. But you can look at your historic income ever since you've earned an income in the United States. And it's really, really humbling to see where you've come from.
That is fascinating. That's fascinating. So I feel like we got to give a shout out to your catcher buddy who hooked you up with the catching position, which moved you to the pitching position, which got his mom over here. So who is this guy?
His name's Brian Felty. He lives in Dallas still. We don't talk or see each other as much as we'd like to, but every time we do, we pick up right where we left off. So I
figured you need to give that guy a little love. Sounds like he's part of the catalyst that got you here.
Absolutely. And he's an Aggie too. So you would relate real well with him.
Right. There you go. There you go. So you get here to this new position in Dallas and you're just kind of taking it easy, kind of, talked about the differences and where that led you.
Again, back office, not a lot of client interaction, but I'd done quite that community bank that I was at had an amazing human or customer service training program. And so one thing that I learned from them is your client isn't always like and somebody outside your workforce. Like your client is can be a loan officer, it can be a coworker, it can range any which way. So my clients at that point were other loan officers that were needing their loan put on the system and funded and things like that. But I quickly found that by about 11:30, I was done with my job for the day, just hoping somebody else would come to me. And a new mortgage division at this community bank had just started like the processor shared a cubicle with me. And it was high energy. It was, I mean, I felt like it was an adrenaline rush every day. And I was like, I kind of want me some of that. Like, how
Yeah,
do I
for
get
sure.
in on that? And so fortunately, the mortgage division had grown enough that they were hiring some people. And I applied to transfer over there and started, got accepted that position and started probably within 5 or 6 months of working the loan operations job here in DFW. So it was
So you
like,
went straight from the processing to originating, basically.
so I went from backroom loan operations to mortgage processing. I processed mortgages solely for about 2 years, and then I got my license at that point, so I could start dabbling in the originating. And it's kind of it's a really cool story that the first month that we took out any processing, it was originating only, was the month my daughter was born in March of 2017. So it was definitely one of those, all right, we're ripping off salary, we're going into commission, got a baby coming. Let's give this a try and see what happens. And honestly, I called the supervisor. I no longer work with or at the same company as him, but I called him a couple years ago and I just said, thank you. Thank you for pushing me into a role that I wasn't comfortable in doing. Thank you for pushing me into commission only, because it was one of the biggest blessings that could have happened to my family and I.
Interesting. Can you talk about that, man? Just that decision of, hey man, I've got money in my hand versus potential money. And what was that like as you guys talked about this as a family, going from salary to, it's a big decision.
It is. And so fortunately, they told me in advance. So March of 2017 was first month. They told me December of 16 that it was coming. So start building that pipeline and get yourself ready. So I had a couple ready for that March month. I had a couple ready for April, and it was income that I had never received a paycheck like that. Like it was enough that I could say, all right, we can put a lot of this into savings and we can, we'll be okay for a couple of months, but you gotta be a bulldog. You gotta, and one of the biggest blessings in the business that I have now is I'm about 40% database driven. So a lot of my high school friends, a lot of my baseball friends, a lot of the people that I've gotten to know through the years, through different avenues, call us when they're looking for a house loan, call us when they're looking to make a move or refinance or what, just to ask, because I I probably tell as many people not right now for financial situations. It's not a benefit to them right now as far as refinances are concerned. Then I tell people yes. And I feel like earning that trust and having an ethical structure is why we continue to get those calls today, and we build that trust with clients, because I'm not afraid to tell somebody that a competing offer is better than ours. And if you feel comfortable with that closing date and that they're going to stick to those terms, then go for it. But I'll be here as a resource along the way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like to think about it in terms of, hey man, I want to treat my clients like I would hope that someone would treat my own dad. You know what I mean? Like, hey, treat my dad, educate him, help him out, answer his questions that he's looking for, and know that this guy doesn't know everything. So
Yeah.
we're considered the expert. So I can relate with that. So you moved into this position, Andy, and sounds like the rest is history.
Yeah.
Where you were at this other mortgage company,
Yes.
and talk about the transition from there.
So there were some changes being made at our previous company, and Harold, Tammy, myself, and our processors were seeing a very apparent issue that I don't know that we were going to get over. And we called one company, Legacy Mutual Mortgage. We talked with them a few times, but it was just a strong fit. Um, and making a change is, in this industry, is very difficult. You've got to make the calls. You've got people that are in process that you want to do right by your current company and close those deals with where they started, but you also have a pipeline that you need to show off for your new company. So about 6 months after I had gone to that commission only, it wasn't a money thing at all. Like it wasn't about that. It was about being able to service our clients a little bit better. And we felt a great connection at Legacy. And I told the CEO, I've told the president, I've told all of his executive management that I'm loyal to y'all for life. And wherever y'all are going, I'm happy to follow along, but I love this company. And so we made the transition. 2017, I helped, I think, about 35 to 40 families for about $9 million. Couple of big jumbo deals in there to add up to that if you're running the numbers.
Yeah.
Then 2018 was a year kind of like now, where interest rates went up very, very rapidly. And it was a hard year. I closed about 50, so still had some growth, but for just under 10 million that year.
Gotcha.
2019, we started seeing some reprieve, and had several refinance clients that came back. And honestly, a lot of deals that I lost due to pricing in 18, I was calling those people and getting refinance deals from them and finding new ways to explore business opportunities for people that may not know where the current market was at. So 2019 helped right around 65, 70 families for about 16 million.
Okay.
And then 2020 was kind of a groundbreaking year of around 115, I want to say, and 34 million. So
big difference.
business basically doubled. And I've got, I'm so blessed with the team that I work with. Patricia DeLeon was with me through the struggles of 2018 and 2019. She was there every step of the way. And then
And what does she do for your team?
she is a pre-approval specialist, front end, initial underwrite, gathers documents, and
So I guess maybe introduce your team and to me in terms of, hey, how would I come across them in the process?
yeah. So Patricia is kind of the OG with me.
Gotcha.
She came over in 2018, and she is pre-approval specialist, front end processor, does does a lot with keeping things in order from, honestly, from the front end to the back end. In August of 2020, Clay Yankee, who is, I've known him for years and years, his wife and my wife have actually been best friends since kindergarten. And Clay is in that transitionary period of, he's all out loan officer. We've got a business partnership structure that we're working with. And he is also a pre-approval specialist that steps in. He's my right hand, he's Patricia's right hand. He's kind of a utility player, but also getting his relationship started to start transitioning into all out loan officer as well. Then Selena came in November of 21. So she's been here about 7 or 8 months. And she's working into pre-approval specialist. She's been doing that for about a month, and made awesome strides towards learning everything, asked a lot of great questions, but she's quickly realizing that we're all evolving, we're all learning. No two clients are the exact same. And a lot of clients go to Google to try and diagnose something that may not even exist. So all of this being said, like, you can go to Dr. Google to diagnose a lot of problems, but there's not a one size fits all in this business and this financial plan.
Well, Andy, well, if I go out to Dr. Google trying to figure out a mortgage, and if it fits for me, man, you're so busy. I don't want to reach out to you. And is it going to cost me any money?
So there is nothing financially obligating to a client until we get to the closing table. At worst case scenario, it would be earnest money, inspection, and appraisal for any client that goes under contract. But financial obligation to me personally is an appraisal if you will like to go with this. I never charge up front for that. Being busy is never an excuse. I have a new program called Calendly that if I am having an issue or you're having an issue getting a hold of me, which is very rare, but you can reach out to the team, or you can go to my Calendly and schedule 15, 30, an hour, however long you need. You can schedule that time, and that way it's on the calendar. So I'm never too busy to speak to anybody.
So you're telling me I can call you and you would just help me kind of figure out maybe if refinancing or purchasing a home is right for me right now.
100%. Yeah. I mean, call, text, email. I mean, I have some that contact me through Instagram message or Facebook message, and not my first preferred method of communication. It may take me a couple of days, but if you do Google me, I mean, that sounds really humble, sorry. But my contact information is pretty well posted throughout, so it's
And
not hard to get.
you've made some really cool videos with your kids, kind of
Totally thoughts.
explaining this. And so we'll also have your links and everything where everyone can get in touch with you
Awesome.
through the podcast as well. You mentioned something earlier that I wanted to learn a little bit about. You know, pardon me for not knowing, you know, XYZ mortgage over ABC mortgage, but you mentioned this legacy love that you have here.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, just this loyalty that's there. And why? You know, I don't know, from an outsider's perspective, why do I want to come over there? What additional does legacy bring to the table?
So along those lines of camaraderie, I mean, from executive management through our operations, through our production teams, like there's a common theme that everyone's goal is to help a client get into a home, help a family get into a home. And too often it's viewed as a transaction. It's viewed as people get put on the sidelines and waiting on approval letters. And we take a lot of pride in our turn times and our consistency and our, I mean, honestly, our terms are fantastic. You compare us to any local lender, we're right there. I'm never going to claim that I'm going to send the best rates or best options or whatever the case may be, but I can guarantee you that you will get a lot of value with working with us. Whether it's a financial solution that we may not have thought of previously, mortgage insurance, how to handle that. Like there are a lot of different levers. And again, a mortgage is not a one size fits all. It's customized to each individual person. And I like to educate people on what may be available to them for these outside the box ideas that they're coming up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't work too hard if you're at home listening to this, right? Just call Andy and let him do it for you.
Exactly. And man, I'll get some puzzles that I'll lay awake at night thinking, that's it. That's how we're going to do this. And I'll text them the next morning as soon as I wake up and say, I've got the idea. What do you think of this? And creative thinking is what it's all about. And finding creative solutions in a market that is so competitive to get under contract for a house right now.
You know, do you think that some of that goes to just the background knowledge of knowing your client? You know, because people are out there just shopping, but if you actually spend the time and actually to know that person, you'll be able to find some different avenues.
Absolutely. On more than one occasion, I send a pre-approval letter out knowing that this client may want to do a 5% down payment, hang on to their cash, but they have sufficient cash to show a 20% down payment. And when a listing agent is comparing options, the perception is these people are barely qualifying because they have a 5% down payment. Mm. But if you present it that they do have the ability to do a 20% down payment, they have plenty of funds if the appraisal comes in short or anything like that, they're great clients. They just wanted to do a 5% down payment. So having that background knowledge of knowing who the audience is that you're presenting, and basically I look for the most light to shine on my clients' offers. It's funny, and the competition's been so tight and the inventory's been so tight for over 7 months, 8 months at least. I've had a couple of circumstances lately that I have 2 approval letters that are going to the same offer. Like there are 2 clients that are offering on the same house. And client confidentiality, I know one of them's less than the other, but I can't disclose that. I can only call the listing agent and sing each of their praises equally. And
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting.
yeah, it doesn't happen often, fortunately, but I love all of my clients and I will sing your praises no matter what.
Yeah, you're our advocate, right?
Right.
Let's jump into some industry news. Kind of, I know I'm reading a lot of things about interest rates and layoffs and so forth. So, be honest with you, I'm reading this and going, ooh, is it a little scary? Is the housing market going under? Again, this is just me reading this, but I'll throw it back to you to, educate me. What are you guys seeing?
The only housing bubble or the only recession that happened because of housing was the 07-08 issue. And that was lenders being irresponsible with lending money for people that couldn't qualify for these loans. The biggest difference in now versus then is there are extensive underwriting parameters that every single client is falling in under. There are income qualifications, asset qualifications, credit qualifications, appraisal qualifications. Like, these people are very solid borrowers. So if the expectation for people is that housing prices are going to go down, particularly in DFW area, I would set expectations properly that there may be a plateau that we're at. And I feel that plateau here, that there may not be 50 offers on one house and the winner going 100,000 over asking price and over the next year or so. Because of interest rates. Interest rates are kind of mitigating that. There still is a lot of people that are interested in buying homes right now.
There are, and I hear that here around where I'm at as well.
And people are relocating, people are renting, leases are coming due. Like, every single circumstance has their own reasons, but in qualified buyers, qualified owners, it is an owner's market. It's not a buyer's market. It's not a seller's market, but those that own homes are going to reap the benefit. Even with rates being, let's use the example of 6% right now, which is kind of the norm. I've basically been seeing that consistently. So let's use 6% as our basis and a $500,000 house right now. If we're looking at 5% appreciation over the next 2 years, but we foresee that interest rates are going to go down by 2% in the next 2 years, what does that mean? What does that do? Well, obviously you're buying a house for cheaper at 500,000, 5% down is $20,000, and your starting loan amount is 480,000. 2 years from now, if we're looking conservatively at 5%, your starting price is 540,000. So we're already at 5% down there. We're looking at more than 20,000. We're looking at 27,000. So your cash influx is already going higher. Your monthly payment is going to be higher. And you're missing out on, basically, your loan amount's probably going to be about 470, and the value of your home is going to be 540 at that point. You're missing out on a lot of opportunity right there. So it's easy to see short-term disadvantages, but those that have aspirations of buying a home, a lot of the people that we are still helping today are falling within their financial goals of monthly payment, cash due at closing, finding homes that are within their price point and falling in love. I can tell you that the people that go under contract right now, it's the closing days of June are going to feel great about that decision come middle of July, because then the new inflation reports come out and we have to see, did the inflation rate go down? Did it stay the same from July to July? Like, where are we at? And
so as a consumer though, I hear this as a consumer, I go, well, last year it was 3% at this time. Now it's 6%. Well, do I need to hurry up and buy a house before it's 9%?
I don't have a crystal ball to know where it's all going to be, but I would say that the sooner the better. I know that on June 13th, it was Monday, June 13th, it was a top 5 worst day in the interest rate market in the last 20 years. And the people that went under contract the week before that were ecstatic about going under contract. And the same is going to be true over the next few months. That the saying is the best time to own real estate was yesterday.
Mhm.
The next best time is today. But you personally have seen that homeownership provides wealth and another source of retirement possibly for us just to live. So I'm a major, that's another reason for my passion of being in this business. I understand that I'm not performing life-threatening issues, but I do understand that there's an emotional aspect to this, to finding your primary home where you're bringing your kids home to and things like that. There's an emotional aspect to this that needs to be handled very sensitively and caringly. And who you work with does matter, from a realtor relationship, from a lending perspective, from an insurance perspective, from a title company perspective. Your team matters, and who you delegate for this team matters substantially to your success.
Yeah, I was thinking about that there. So there may be people out there that hear this that want to reach out straight to you, and I don't have a realtor. Andy, what do you tell those people?
Well, fortunately, I work with the absolute best realtors. And if they're looking outside of typical DFW area, there are connections that the realtors I work with have, or that I have made over the years, that I would love to connect you. In this industry, I feel like it is a little backwards, that people find the home they fall in love with, then they have to find out if they qualify for that home. And then you may be waiting a few hours to get that pre-approval letter. And
A few hours?
We do our best to at least get something out same business day in most circumstances.
Gotcha. So I think you're saying is that, don't fall in love before you know what you can pay for.
Yeah, and I get it. The house is the shiny thing. We're just the numbers. Like, we're not cool.
Right.
But there's a lot to be said with proactiveness in this. I had a client that closed in October of this past year, that our conversation started in summer of 2018. So I'm not planning on making any career changes. Like, I'm on your time schedule. I'm not going to push you to do something that you're uncomfortable with doing, but I am a resource to come up with ideas to help you accomplish your goals.
So, hey, Andy, if I'm going to buy a $6 million house or a $250,000 house, can I come to you for all of those things?
My goal is that my team and myself treat a $50,000 client just the same as a $10 million client. I have so much faith in what we do that you never know when that $50,000 client is going to be a $10 million client, or going to be able to refer you a $10 million client. So like I mentioned, 40% is our database, and past client referrals are amazing. So come
And
to us.
does that what most of your business makes up of right now is referrals? Just because, you mentioned being
100%
here
referral
local and
based.
so forth.
100% referral based. Either sphere of influence or referral based.
It's the best business, isn't it?
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. And I
Makes
never.
people feel like we're all on the same team.
And then these nets or these your reach never, it goes so far, but then it's all small circles that are involved with it too.
It is.
There's a connection point to everyone, so it's amazing. But yeah, I would love to speak with any and everyone. Proactiveness in particular is very important. And there's been many people that they find out there's a collection on their credit report that's taking their credit score down by 50 points. So there's a lot of value that you pay off $100 collection, but it saves you $5,000 at the closing table. I'd say that's well worth it. So
yeah, so please call and find out, right? Don't be surprised.
Absolutely. So I appreciate hopping on, talking about all this crazy stuff. Was there any other crazy questions?
I like I said, I appreciate you jumping on. It's great to get a chance to talk to you, get to know you a little bit. And, for anyone out there that may hear this, what do you want to tell them?
I would say that going back a couple minutes ago, where your team matters in purchasing a home, the big box lenders may wave shiny things, but I've had to revive several deals, especially over in the past few months, that wouldn't have closed without speaking to somebody that has done the nitty gritty. So contacting the right team is of utmost importance in this industry. Again, don't let these short-term memories or short-term situations, circumstances put a detriment on your long-term goals, because honestly, you may be 2 years down the road and you may see a more attractive interest rate, but the affordability of real estate is probably more affordable right now than it will be in 2 years.
Okay. And I'm hearing about how important it is for the right team that you choose. And just over the course of the last few months, I've heard some of those stories specifically around people we know of. Hey, I went with my brother-in-law's mortgage company and my brother-in-law's helping me out. And now my brother-in-law dropped the ball and I should have went with Andy. And now our closing date's being pushed and
made Thanksgiving a little more awkward. I know which one you're talking about too.
So I'm just kind of pushing the value of, Andy's done this. You've been doing this. And so you're in good hands with Andy. So man, I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
Absolutely, Chris. And I want to give you a shout out. You have been an amazing connector as well. So I want to encourage anyone that has insurance questions, whether it's your existing policy or a new policy that you're looking at, give Chris a shout. I mean, he has a lot of the same values that we do, and that's why he's been such an excellent resource. So sorry to wait an hour into this to give you your shout out, but
no worries, man. I appreciate it. And like I said, I think that's why we connect, because we do have a value system that aligns.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And with God's plan, we're all in great hands.
We are, man. I appreciate your time. Thanks so much. And we'll be doing some business soon.
Sounds great.
Adios.
Thanks, Chris.